Start recording. All right. So, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in, Erik Moth. Let's go ahead and see if you can. I gave everybody, the guests or the viewers and everybody, a little bit of background on who you are. But why don't you go ahead and just kind of catch us up on exactly who you are, what you do, things like that.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? My name's Erik Moth. I am an actor, writer, teacher. I'm currently based in Louisville, Kentucky. And yeah, that's who I am. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, bro. It's great to have you in here. I know we talked about doing this for a year ago almost now at this point, which is crazy to think about. But
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad that we can get you in here and get everything going. So, all right. So you're an actor. You started out, in Louisville. Where in Louisville did you grow up?
So I was raised in Fern Creek. I lived in like the outskirts of Fern Creek, almost in Bullitt County, which was nice for like the first like 6 years of my life or
Yeah.
being raised because I'm not actually originally from Kentucky. I'm from Colorado.
Okay.
But I moved here when I was like two, so it's basically like I'm from Louisville. But
Right. Right.
my elementary school was really close by, where I lived. But then after elementary school, I ended up going to No and like Manual and YPass. So like it started to become what became like a 5 minute like transportation to school became like a 35 to 40 minute, which was not fun
Yeah,
growing up.
dude. Going downtown, baby, downtown Louisville. That it
Hmm.
takes a minute, man, to get there. But not that's the thing about Louisville is you can kind of get everywhere in 20 minutes. But for you, Bullitt County that's a little
Yeah.
further. Nice, man. Okay, cool. So, what got you into theater and into acting?
So I started like I when I was about like 5 or 6, like um I was interested in it. Both my parents are artists, or at least they started out as artists. My mom is a theater teacher and director, and my dad has a background. They both have backgrounds in music and theater. So like it's been in my blood, so to speak, from the get go, and I've been surrounded by it since I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Um, I started out with it when I was like 5 or 6, and then like school life, bullying, all that stuff, kind of like turned me away from it, so to speak.
Oh, damn.
But like when I got to like about fourth or fifth grade, my mom started choreographing at St. Xavier High School, um, and they would let kids, like younger kids, not high school kids, be in some of the shows if they wanted to have like kids in the shows, like
Hmm.
to have like an ensemble or like background or like something like that. And so for a good portion of my middle school and elementary school life, I was in shows at St. X,
Oh, yeah.
just like in one number or something. So that was my first like real introduction to live theater. My first show was Les Miserables, which is a wonderful musical, which is a really awesome first show to get to do. But like you just get to be in one number, you get to be like a kid, and then but like you get to be in the show, and that was my introduction to it. So that's how I got started.
Well, yeah, speak a little bit about that play. Les Miserables that's like a I know that that's a big deal.
It really
Even
is. It's
even as a
actually
kid, that's a quite a big performance,
it's a
man.
huge show. Like it really is. Like it's honestly like it's crazy that a high school would do like one of the biggest like long demanding shows like that. And it was so awesome for that to be like my first musical. And what's really cool about it too is that the guy that was like the lead, Valjean, um,
I
at
remember
St.
that
X.
name. I remember that
Yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah. The Hugh Jackman part.
Right, right.
The guy who played that part, he was obviously like way older than me and in high school and stuff, and but he was a super nice guy. And lo and behold, like years later, like this year, we were in a show together at one of the local theaters here in town, and like going from being in like a show as a little kid with him to like being in a show is where we're both adults like in the show together. Like it was really cool to like have that full circle kind of moment with him. It just kind of shows how like close knit the theater community in this city really is, and like how you can cross paths with people at any different time and any different moment. But that show's really, really beautiful, and it was a really great introduction into the theater world for sure.
Yeah, and how old were you when you did that again? You said.
I think I was either in fourth or fifth grade, and I was just I was just like a little kid. I got to sing. We got to be in like one song, and then we just like left. So I would literally like sing in the ensemble for one song, and then I would walk off stage. But it was like the best thing ever. Like I
Yeah.
remember like being like, "This is so cool! Like I really like this," and like that's what got me, because like I knew from like pretty much then on like that I wanted to go to no middle school, because they had such a great art program and theater program there. And like I knew like I wanted to audition for YPass. Like those were things that like I started like as soon as I like knew. It was kind of like instantaneous for me, because like I knew like this is what I wanted to do. Like it was like
Yep.
you get out on that stage and you're like, okay, no, this is it. This is like this isn't just like a pastime. This isn't just a hobby. This isn't just something I'm gonna do for whatever. Like I want to do this.
Absolutely, man. I know the feeling. Trust me.
hmm
So you get that feeling. You kind of have that realization, and then so you go to know, and what's after that? What comes next?
I just like did a bunch of shows. I was still doing shows at St. X, and I was getting to do like plays in class with No. I was getting to like get take drama and really practice and work. I started taking voice lessons when I was about in seventh grade. Because for a while, like I I was terrified of singing in public for a really long time. And even when I started taking voice lessons, I was still scared to some degree.
Yeah.
And I didn't really formally sing in public until probably like getting into like my freshman year of high school was probably when I first started really like in like public, like in a performance. Like I would sing in auditions, but like I had never like had a lot of opportunities to sing in front of like a group of people.
Yeah. Totally.
So that it was a lot of just like preparing, and like I don't think a lot of people, middle school wasn't really fun for anyone, I feel like.
Definitely some dark times in middle
Yeah,
school.
no
I
question.
feel like seventh grade was just not it at all for me.
Yeah, I did not like middle school that much.
Yeah, eighth grade was cool. Eighth grade was fun, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, no,
Did you go to know?
I didn't. I went to Camer.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so all my friends went to Ballard, but
Mm,
not me, Eric. So
gotcha.
anyway, sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No. No, it was just middle school for me was just a lot of like training, I guess, and just trying to like I think trying to make sure you get into or audition for YPass. I think that's or like where you
Exactly.
want to go for high school. I think one of my biggest, if I'm being honest, like I was doing shows. It was hard for me to like. I was very busy as a kid, and as a kid, I when I say as a kid, I mean all the way through high school, really,
Oh, dude.
because like my family's schedules, like I was basically like if I wasn't like going home or being taken home, like I was going to like U of L sporting events with my dad, or I was
Yeah.
going to rehearsals with my mom. It was a lot of like every single night something's going on. Very rare that like, oh, we all have the night off. It's like it was a lot of like I'm going with one of the two of you at some point. Like starting in middle school, like I started walking to like the U of L's like their tark like that goes around their campus, and I
Yeah.
would get on like the college bus and go like to the stadium, or I would walk to my dad's office at U of L. Like it was a lot of like sitting and waiting at events, which was really cool, because like I think it's important as an artist to you can't like envelop yourself in just exclusively art. Like you have to broaden your horizons. Like you have to have some other interests and stuff. Otherwise, burnout will happen so fast. And so like having sports in my life is really big, because I love sports and I grew up around it, and it's really nice to have that as like the other like another thing outside of theater that I'm interested in.
Absolutely. And I see I've got a picture pulled up here of you with the Louisville Cardinal on your Instagram. Your dad is a Louisville sports announcer, correct?
Correct. He was the public address announcer for men's and women's basketball, volleyball, football. and then he does baseball on the radio. His role at U of L changed when the pandemic started.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So because like no live sports for a while, so like we had to make some changes and like some things happened, and it basically like it retired, so to speak. But he's now like he's working somewhere else, but he's still getting to do baseball on the radio, which is nice. Because radio is really what he really loves to do.
That's good.
But he no longer is like the public address announcer. But that picture, I actually will do some public address announcing myself every once in a while. But for baseball, for at U of L, and that was elementary school day where it's like a 11 a.m. game, and it's like a
Oh
field
yeah.
trip for all the elementary school kids. It's
Yeah.
super fun, and like you have to be like the in-game host with the kids, and that's when that was taken. And I'll announce maybe like between 3 and 5 games a season at U of L, depending on like when the main guy that they want to do it usually isn't available. If I'm available, they'll usually bring me in to do that, which is nice because it's fun. It's a good little side gig, and it's I love baseball, so I'm gonna be there regardless. So I might as well be like doing something and getting paid for it.
Yeah, dude, totally. I totally feel that. Well, that's awesome, dude. That's a cool. I remember you telling me in high school that your dad did that, and because he did a lot of the basketball games, right?
Yeah, he did all of them. It was a really easy way to like as a theater kid to establish yourself with the jocks and the sports fans because it was like I can't go up to a group of random like people at Manual and be like talking about like theater or something like well maybe the Y Pass kids for sure but from an athletic standpoint it's like oh no I also get sports. They're like oh okay like it's a really easy way to like be like oh we'll let him hang out with us.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's that's true. It's a fact. Okay, so back to being in high school at YPass. That earlier, everybody, me and Eric went to YPass together. That's why I was we were talking about Camera and No, but so yeah, just talk about your experience at YPass a little bit and some of the musicals that you were in, just kind of those various things.
Yeah. Well, I was very lucky that I got into the show my freshman year, which is like I don't think they yeah, which I don't think
Congratulations,
they
dude. That's amazing.
thanks man. They don't. It was like one of the most It was to this day. It was one of the most terrifying experiences and one of the weirdest because me and like a couple other people who went to know who were all like we were all like let's go audition for the fall shows even though we know we're not going to get in like let's go audition for the heck of it, let's walk over, let's do it. And we like walked over and we did it and it was like whatever, like nothing's going to happen. And like I ended up getting called back for the show, but like I never knew because like I didn't go to Manual yet, so I didn't like go check the board to see if I was called back. So
Yeah.
they like they got like a folder and put all the material in and like walked it over to No and like brought it to my teacher and they're like this is for you, and there was like a letter that was like hey we realized that you probably didn't know this. And so I ended up having to go to callbacks for that show, and I was like an eighth grader surrounded by all these upperclassmen, and it was terrifying because I hadn't sung in public or in front of people that weren't like teachers. So I had to sing like this love song with this like upperclassman, and it was terrifying.
Oh my gosh.
It was like I was like, why am I here? And I
Yeah.
still to this day like it was Little Women. It was a really small show, and it was beautifully done, and I had a very small part, and I got to understudy one of the supporting roles, and we actually got like an understudy show, which was really really cool. That doesn't really happen as much. But yeah, that was definitely like my first semester of high school, like immediately like going into having classes and being overwhelmed with the new schedule and how all this stuff works to going into rehearsals immediately really kind of like set the tone for my like high school experience.
Well, dude, yeah, I was gonna say well two things. Though looking back on those moments now, especially, I mean, those are like precious moments that you're gonna remember your whole life. Obviously, like being in with these upperclassmen and like thinking like, wow, like I'm not cut out for this. Like, what am I doing here? Like, dude, I remember my first day of band freshman year in 2012. I was like, this is not for me. This is insane. I was like, I can't keep up with any of this. And Yeah, so that was but looking back on those moments now, it's like that made us. And I forgot this. Continue with what you were saying. I forgot what the second thing
No,
I was
you're
gonna say.
good. Yeah, no question. It's no question that that stuff is like looking back. It's really like important. Like that was probably like part of it was like they maybe the teachers knew they're like, oh, we need to get him out of his comfort zone like now, um,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
sooner rather than later. And it was a really great like introduction because like also having been in shows like at St. X, I was only ever like in a number. Like I was in the show, but I wasn't really in the show. And then like no, we would do plays, but like we would do like maybe two performances, and we would rehearse them during class. So in terms of like my theatrical experience, like I had a lot of shows, but like I didn't have like necessarily a lot of experience per se. So it was my first like foray into like this is what it's like to actually really be in a musical and like rehearsing after school and like being in a doing tech week and like all these other things. And it was for a minute it was like a kind of an isolating experience too because I was the only freshman and like majority of the cast were seniors and like juniors. It was hard to like kind of like be social in those moments because I
Oh
was
yeah,
also very introverted.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like but it was a good like it was a very formative experience I would say, and it definitely like shaped the way for the following years. I was very lucky to have gotten to do quite a few shows in my time at YPass because I did we did we had New Works festivals and like which I love. That's one of my favorite things that they do. It's for those who don't know, New Works is a like student written, directed, acted. There are student choreography, dance pieces. There's live music, like some like
Yeah.
depending on what the vibe is, like what the kids want to do. It's like this fully produced festival that's like there are literally four slates of it and happens for like 2 weekends and it's all student created and it's
Yeah.
one of the coolest things that I think the high school does, and that to me is like some of my favorite moments happened in New Works.
Yeah, well, I was in New Works
Mm-hmm.
in my senior year. I brought a piece to of music to Mr. Murner, and it was just like this little jazz piece I wrote, and
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that, dude. That yeah, New Works was those were definitely cool moments, especially because it's all like student oriented and like the students do everything. Those were I mean I would go to those every year. Those were really cool.
So much fun, and like being on I started taking playwriting when I was a sophomore, and I took playwriting for 3 years of high school, and I started taking directing as a junior. So, like, my junior and senior year, I would write one of the shows for New Works, I would direct one of the shows in New Works, and then I would be in one of the shows, like, to do all sides of it. So it was a really great opportunity to, like, see all sides of it. Because I think it's really important to be on the other side at some point, even if you don't think
Absolutely.
you're gonna like it. Like you might think I could never direct, I could never write, I could never do any of these things. It's like that. Like maybe you do it and like you realize, yeah, maybe I don't, but like you should try it because it will heighten your experiences as an actor. I
Oh yeah.
think if
Oh
you
yeah.
know, like if you've seen what it's like from the other side, you can start to gauge. It's like what are they looking for? Like what is this moment supposed to be like? You can have a stronger idea of what's going on as an actor if you've lived on the other side of the table, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I like what I was going to say was when you said when you kind of first started at YPass and it kind of set the tone, you like hit the ground running. Dude, that first semester, freshman year, man, was like I was playing basketball. We had so much homework on top of my band projects I had to do. I mean, that it was like college level
Oh,
preparation, and which I'm very thankful for. But and I've had a lot of YPass alumni creatives on here, and I know they can relate too. But I mean, it was really tough, man.
it
And
was it was incredibly difficult, and like I wasn't even like part of the reason like I never took an AP class. I never like
oh,
did
dude,
any of that like heightened stuff because like well part of the reason was because and that had to do with being in a show my like the fall of my freshman year because I was like I'm already going to go right from school ending to rehearsal until 5:30 every day and the show goes up at the end of November. Like
literally,
why would like I'm not going to have time to try to do this.
no, it literally.
I was really fortunate to basically I was in and I did the a lot of the shows in the black box, a lot of awesome plays. Sophomore year, I got to be in both shows in the fall, which was really awesome because I got to be in Bang Bang You're Dead, which was a really great play
I
that
remember that.
I ended up actually directing a production of that in college. That was the first show that I directed in college, was that play, because I think it's a really important play, and I really enjoyed getting to be a part of it, and then directing it later in life was something that I really really enjoyed doing as well.
That's
But
great, man.
sophomore year was Urinetown, which is really cool because that's what they're doing right now at YPass, which is makes me feel old
Well,
because
you
it's
said
like
it was like a 10-year
yeah,
anniversary.
the 10-year
That's
anniversary of it, which is crazy. Which I don't think they're like advertising it like that, but they should.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
10 years, man, since freshman year. That's
yeah,
man. No, I guess that was
then
sophomore year. Yeah,
sophomore year,
sophomore year. Yeah,
the fall of sophomore year.
2013. Yeah, that's right. Wow, wow, dude,
Yeah, the 10-year,
that is
which
insane.
was really crazy. Um,
It's super crazy.
yeah, junior year, Hairspray was certainly one of the like it was. I think I don't know if it's happened since, but I know we sold out a show for Hairspray, which is insane to think because it's like I think the main stage is like 800. I think it's 888 because it's like a weird number like that to sell out that kind of theater. Was electric, and that show
Oh,
was
dude.
so much fun.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite, like, because one of my other favorite experiences happened in my junior year was we did an original musical in the spring, How Not to Be Popular, which was really, really awesome to do like an original show to be, and like it's still, I'm hoping one day, like maybe they'll come back to it and try to figure out a way to get it published because it was like, it's weird to think like we're the only people that have ever we're the only people that have ever sung this stuff. We're the only people that have ever done this show. And I would love to see more opportunities because I think it's a great story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really crazy because it was based on a book with the same name, and the author of the book happened to be friends with one of the teachers at YPass, I think, and so she adapted it to the stage, and her friend wrote the music for it, and
That's
like
cool.
yeah, and the author came to see the show, which was really really powerful to like have her like be there and like see it and talk to us afterwards and be like about like that like her getting to see her work brought on stage and adapted in a way that she never would have thought of,
Yeah.
and like that experience was so much fun, and that show was like such a good group of people,
Good.
and definitely like something that you don't necessarily get in life is getting to be a part of an original musical.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that was really really awesome.
Yeah. And with YPass, though, you were somebody. I think it was you were telling me that it was just like one of your teachers or somebody was telling you that it's like, yo, you may not ever get to be a part of something like some of these shows at YPass in your life, and it's like that was just the reality of it. And now,
Right.
obviously, there's a lot of talented people, including you, that come out of YPass, and you've obviously had other opportunities. But uh, very very thankful for the YPass experience, and
No
you know,
question. It's something I tell my voice students that are like getting ready to do those things. I'm just like, you need to understand. Like, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow potentially because it's like, are you telling me things aren't going to be better past high school? It's like, well, yes and no. It's just like venues and like theatrical jobs in this country in this world. It's just like, how often are you going to get an opportunity to perform in that size of a theater with that level of tech, with that level of orchestra and band all around you? Because it's not just the theater space itself. It's not just like the people on stage. It's everything that goes on in that program.
yeah,
It's just in it, and it's like you might work with like tech crews that are just as amazing, or you might have a band or a pit that's like really really talented too. But it's like all of that with the size of the theater. It's just like these kinds of things like you will be lucky if you get to have something like this later in life.
exactly. That's my point exactly. And so, you know, very thankful for that.
No
So,
question.
lastly, of Why Pass Eric, let's talk about the Shrek musical, which
Yes.
Eric played the lead role. I was in the pit orchestra, and go ahead and speak about that. It was
Sure.
fall of 2015. Yeah, it was
Yeah, fall of
senior year.
2015.
But
Fall of 2015.
talk about that as a senior playing
Sure.
like a lead role. I'm sure that was pretty awesome.
It was, I mean, I was terrified for a lot of reasons. You know, like I said, I gotten a lot of opportunities to be in shows, but like, it wasn't until the spring of my junior year that I had like opportunities to have solo singing in a show.
Yeah,
And like, and like, because of that, like, I was still like, I wasn't as scared, but I was still like a little bit like afraid to continue to sing in public. And it was like, this was an opportunity that I was so excited for, but like it was such a blur. I I was also doing so many other things at the same time that so much of that show seems like a blur to me. But I just have such a memory of like looking back on it being like, this was a really powerful group of people that put this on, and I was surrounded by insane talent in all of the other roles in the ensemble, and then you all in the pit. Like, it was such an incredible show.
yeah, no,
And like, really, like, the set, all of it, I was just like, I I I have a distinct memory of finishing one of the songs in the first act in the last show, and I just started crying backstage because like it's
yeah,
a
man,
sad song, and I just kind of gave into it, and I was just like realizing, I was like, this was it.
yeah,
Like,
man,
this is really cool.
yeah.
Um,
It's all what you've always wanted.
right. Yeah. It was a dream come true. It really was. Cause it was definitely like a role that I had always wanted to play. It's a great part. It's got great music. I was really, really, really touched that I was given that opportunity, my senior year. And I got to throw you flowers every night.
So I was just gonna say, so I guess I don't remember what they were for or why you had them in the play, but uh, what was it again? Why did you have?
I think Fiona gave me like, she like made a like lei of like flowers or something for me to wear, and like she like hands it to me, and I'm like, oh god, no. And I like just like tossed it down, and I remember like there was this bridge that went over the pit, which to this day terrifies me,
Yeah,
because that,
that
like,
was
there was no railing. There
yeah
was no
that
railing,
it was tough. It was definitely a little sketchy.
and I had to go across that thing like 3 or 4 times throughout the show, and it was every time like I just took a breath. I was like, okay, here we go. But I walked right over the pit, and I remember like in Tech Week, I like got down like and talked to you all, and I was like, hey, every night I'm gonna cross this bridge, and I'm gonna drop this little lei of flowers, and y'all gotta just look up and catch it, and then bring it back to the prop table. But just look alive so that it doesn't like catch you off guard. And it usually, like, I think it ended up being like right where you were every night was whenever I dropped it.
So it was like a lay of flowers, and Eric would drop them, and I would catch them around my neck, and it was just a nightly just one of those things that us nerd band and musical kids do, you know.
I think it's really like a blessing and a curse to some degree. Is like, there are still like the kids that were like, so middle school, we'll do student matinees,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
schools from all over the county will come and like see the shows, which is really awesome because we're like opening the schools up to, some schools might not have like access to theater or something like that, or some kids might not have that opportunity. And so it's
And
really great.
we got out of class for that, so
That too.
that was
We
always
also got
nice.
out of class, which
Yeah,
is really fun. You
yeah,
basically like had no class that day. It was great.
yeah. It was nice.
Um, because it'd be like, eat lunch like real quick so you can go to your last class, and we would like take our sweet ass time and just not go.
Yeah,
um,
totally.
so, but what was crazy was that like in the years following, for like 5, 6, 7 years following, they there would still be like kids that would come up to me and like they were like, you were Shrek in like in that show, and like I have mixed feelings about it, and I
It's
can talk
one
briefly
way.
about why.
It's one way to be recognized, but I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a way to be recognized. No question. I mean, it's certainly like from their standpoint, they were in sixth or seventh grade and they saw the show and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And like that's where they're coming from. I think in most cases, which is really sweet. There's also just like, it's there's something to get in like to a bit of a deeper topic. Something that I struggle with, or not struggle with per se, but something that is prevalent in the industry is when it comes to casting. There's a lot of like prejudice against larger people, so to speak.
Okay.
And it's something that, I think industry wise, I think we're getting a little bit better about it, and people are starting to like broaden their minds, so to speak.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, it's like a person of my size, couldn't play the leading man unless it was like a non-human, like Shrek,
Yeah.
or like an elephant in Seussical or something like that, like Horton the elephant. Or like, if you can be like if you're a larger person and being a lead, like Tracy Termine Spray, but like, Tracy's also like that show's filled with fat jokes, and like and like Shrek is too. Like there's a lot of like being the butt of the joke in many cases because of the size. It's very rare that you see like people be like, oh, this person. There's no reason why this person could be look like this way or that.
Right.
And there's always like a twinge of like being reminded of like, remember that time you were given like this huge opportunity, but also like you were given the opportunity because it wasn't like, there's like this part of my brain that's like, because it was an ogre and it was this, it's like, it could have been any other show. I'm very thankful that it was. I wanted to play Shrek. It was so much fun in the moment, but I'm also thinking back being like, I know why I was put in that place, but also like, it was definitely like, there's a lot of like extra detail that goes into that, so to
Oh
speak. And I'm
well.
noticing it even more.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Well, first of all, that can. I'm sure that is frustrating, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. The entertainment business in general is never morally what's the word, nice or caring, or can be kind, you could say. I deal with the same thing, dude, with in the music business, man. It's like, you know no one technically really cares about the recording engineer as long as you get it done. And then from the artist side, do you look good? Do you have followers? Do you do this? It's a lot, dude. And I feel you on like the other part of your brain. It's like having those reservations, thinking about like, okay, well, this only happened because, but dude, like, don't let that take anything away from that experience, bro, because you earned that for sure. But
Appreciate that.
absolutely, dude. But I hear where you're coming from, dude. It's a lot, and it's a lot that weighs on you. You know.
I hear to that. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. And to get away from that that darker topic, so to speak, something that is, I have a couple stories about the show that are really weird. The first is less weird. I teach a lot of kids that go to YPass right now, and like I because of like my mom's job, and like there are a lot of kids that went to my mom's school that I would co-direct with her in shows, and like that they would go to YPass, and so like I've been able to like keep an idea of what's going on there, and like know students and stuff. And apparently, like, I don't know if they do it recently, but they used to just watch Shrek
Huh.
like in class, like all the time, which I think's hilarious. Like they would just watch it,
Yeah.
um, which I think is hilarious. The weird story has to do with our former principal, Mr. Mays.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So I went to a we had one of the choreographer of Shrek, and she was a musical teacher. She retired or I want to say like 2019, 2018, something like that. And there was a huge retirement party and show. It was like a performance for her, where a lot of alumni, like we all came back and like we sang and performed and gave her this whole show. People spoke. It was really beautiful. Um, One of the assistant principals was there, and he was like, "Oh my god, dude! Like Shrek was so cool, blah blah blah, whatever." And he was like, "Oh, you know what? I need to tell you something about this." Like, and that was for those. So our principal, Gary Mays, former principal, for a reason, he got fired because he wasn't necessarily the coolest dude. He was just not a great guy from what we've understood, and that's why he was fired. Um, for whatever reason, he had a certain affectation to Shrek and to me in the show. Um, he had like this trophy case in his office, and the assistant principal told me that my nose that I wore in the show was like in that trophy case. It was
What the
just like
heck?
messed up. I was like, what the hell? Because it
That's
was like,
weird.
I know. He told me, he was like, I was working in this office one day and I looked and saw it. I was like, is that like
Is that my nose?
is that? He was wondering like, what is that green like green like? I had like a prosthetic like green. It was like foam gel like nose that I would like have like basically face glued to my like face every night.
Yeah.
And I guess he had it in his trophy case.
Well, that's
Uh,
definitely weird.
yeah, there was a Facebook group called Shrek the Musical Worldwide, and I like got into that. It was like had like thousands of people in it, and I went into that group and I like posted this story, and everyone was like, "What the heck?" I
Yeah.
had to like share this with the masses. Yeah, so that was definitely a weird experience to say the least.
Well,
But
that's
it does show. Go
go ahead.
ahead.
No. Yeah. That's definitely super weird, but you make a great story.
It does. No, no question. It's hilarious, especially just because like it's not like he's still there. I don't, yeah. Um, but that's definitely like I found that another weird thing I found out years later. But certainly like it was a great experience. It was a great show, and I'm like very thankful for the opportunity
Oh
that I
yeah.
was given. No question.
Absolutely. So after Y Pass, what happens next? Where did you go to college? What'd you do next?
Yeah, I applied to a handful of schools. I was very lucky to have been accepted to a few, and I ended up deciding to go to Wright State in Dayton, Ohio. I got my BFA in acting with an emphasis in musical theater.
Nice.
Dayton, Ohio is about 2.5, 3 hours away from here. It's like a solid 45 minutes north of Cincinnati. So it was out of state, but like it wasn't out of state per se, which was really nice because it was good to be away from home, but it was also like nice to be like if I needed to go home, it was not crazy. It wasn't like a huge ask, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an incredible experience for me. I really, really was appreciative to the people I met and the opportunities that I had while I was there.
Good. And some of those opportunities, speak to those.
Yeah, of course. So one of the biggest things for me in my college experience was definitely we had a student-run theater called the Directing Lab,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
basically, yeah, we were allowed to do as long as we paid for the rights. If we needed to pay for the rights, we were allowed to do whatever we wanted. Um, every single weekend there was a different weekend of shows. Like you could very well have like 3 or 4 different plays every weekend that you could go see, or musicals or whatever, variety shows, cabarets, like whatever it was going on. And it was all free too. Most of the time, like you never charged admission. It was free theater. Um, a lot of times the shows were like starting at 11 p.m., but like that's just college. And
Yeah.
I was I was like very very thankful to collaborate with a lot of incredible people. Um, while I was there, I worked with a lot of like the tech students to help design sets for shows. I ended up producing and directing 6 major productions in my time at Wright State.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and it was really really wonderful because I built up this reputation of like working in the directing lab and being a director and getting to um, really really work on my own schedule and like learning a lot how to like balance both classwork, performing work in shows in the season, as well as like directing. And it's like you do all those things at once. You can really like tackle anything in the real world, kind of. Like I remember, this wasn't a show I directed, but my sophomore year, I was in our main stage production of Fiddler on the Roof. And then I was also in a musical called Next to Normal in our directing lab. And those 2 shows were rehearsing at the same time. And as a sophomore, my first class was ballet or jazz dance at 8:30 in the mornings. Um,
Oh God.
so yeah,
8:30 in the morning.
I know I would be in class at 8:30, basically until like between like 3 to 5, something like that, going back and forth. Like I'd have breaks throughout the day, but like I would never like leave campus. Um, and then I'd get a dinner break, and rehearsal for the main stage musical would be 6 to 10. And then the rehearsal for the directing lab show would be 10 to, and like for the most part, we would end at midnight. But tech week, we would run the show, and if it's like a long show and you start at 11 or something like that, I've gotten out of that directing lab at like 1:30 or 2 sometimes, just because you have to run the show. So like going from a full day of classes to rehearsing 4 hours for a main stage musical to running an entirely other different show until the early hours in the morning, and then doing it all over again the next day. Like after doing that, you're like, well, there's really nothing I can't handle because
Yeah.
everything's going to be easier than that.
Right.
And I think that was really important because it's definitely like, and I'm not saying that experience is definitely something I would recommend because it was a lot,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
it was certainly like, it really like made things that were happening later, stressful things that were happening later in college and later in life, and being like, well, you know what? It was not as, I've had worse, like I've had like more like work on my, like more things on my plate, so to speak. So
Hmm.
it was really eye opening for me. But I was very, very lucky. Um, I got to do some really great shows. Some of my favorites. I got to do a great play called "Stupid Fucking Bird," which I was actually looking at the other night because I still do monologues from it for auditions. It's a great modern adaptation of The Seagull, and it was very much a passion project because I put it up in a couple of weeks with a group of friends, and like I played the main character while also like me and two other people who were also in the show. We all kind of like hive mind directed it. Like I would direct the scenes or like help organize the whole big picture of the show,
Hmm.
but then like the other two people who were both people who have directed me before would like direct the scenes that I was in, and like they would help me put that stuff together, and like they would be there to watch and help, and so we all kind of, it was a very collaborative effort. It's a really powerful show, and that was definitely a high point for me. um, I was also, I think probably my favorite show I directed in that space was 45 Plays for 45 Presidents, which YPass actually did 44 plays back when it was, we only had 44 presidents. They continue to write the show as, I don't know if there's a 46th play for 46 presidents yet, but I assume they're writing it. But it's exactly what it is. It's 45 short plays about each president, and it's played by like a group of ensemble actors that play like over 100 parts, and it's, there's an educational aspect to it. It's not like, and it's not like a, all the presidents are awesome. It's more like, no, everyone sucked. And it's kind of, it pokes fun at like everything, and like there's some of the plays are, some of them are musical numbers, some of them are like dance pieces. It's
Hmm.
all over the place, and it's like super super fun. There's a lot of audience participation. It has a very like improv feel to it per se.
Yeah.
And I put a group together of just 10 really really awesome actors, and it was my last, my formal last show that I directed in college. And I was just like, I knew it was what I wanted to do, like when I was a freshman, because that was when I saw it at YPass. I was like, I want to direct this show so bad, but I'm going to wait until my senior year because that was also like the closest time to the election. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the show, you hand out like voter registration forms and like contact information for representatives, and like it's a play that like gives you something to do afterwards, which I think is really important in theater.
Yeah. Totally. Well, that's cool. So I guess that play will get longer and longer as we get more every 4 years. That
Yeah, I
play will
think
get
so.
longer and longer.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. It certainly is fun, and it I definitely the only there were a couple, I definitely don't want to like sugarcoat the college experience too, because there were definitely like, obviously, I mean, I know you sneaked right out of it, but like I graduated the spring of the pandemic,
Yeah.
which was because you graduated, didn't you? You were saying that you had graduated like that fall before.
Yeah. It was December of 2019.
Yeah, so it was just like, here we are like having, Wright State spring break is super early in relation to other colleges, So like our spring break's like the last week of February, first week of March, which is weird because it's still like freezing cold out everywhere. Um,
Yeah, college spring break is weird.
yeah, and we there was a we were basically getting ready right when you're seniors at Wright State. You do a showcase in New York City for representatives, talent agents, casting directors for Broadway, like all kinds of like New York theater people. Like they try to get as many of them to come in and watch and potentially get you represented and like leading to other opportunities down the road. It's a really big deal, and it's something like you raise money for throughout your college process through events and stuff. And we're in class getting talking over like what we're gonna do for it. Um, During spring break, I had gone to the Southeastern Theater Conference, which was in Louisville, which is or SETCs, which is like the professional like major, like they call it like a cattle call audition, because it's just like hundreds and hundreds of people go in. You walk into a room and audition for like 50 different theaters or plus from all over the country,
Hmm.
and then they call you back and you go into a bunch of hotel rooms and do callbacks and see what happens. And I had just done that, and I'd had like a good handful of callbacks to a bunch of theaters, like in all over the place, in Alabama, Pennsylvania, all over the country. And I was like starting to weigh out what was going to happen when I graduated.
Yeah, exactly.
And I still had never been to New York, so the showcase was going to be my first experience in the city. And we got back. It was quite literally like 2 or 3 days after we gotten back from spring break, and that's when everything shut down. And we went everyone went home, and it was a very anticlimactic sort of end to the college experience,
Yeah.
which was definitely sour, but it definitely, you have to pivot at some point.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly. Well, I'm sorry that you didn't get to go to New York for your showcase. I've actually never been to New York either. I'm trying to go, but yeah, that was definitely a very big like wrench, just kind of like thrown in the whole system. That was crazy. Um,
Yeah, no
but
question.
but with that being said, what was your first kind of steps after you graduated college?
Yeah. Well, graduating college at my dinner table, um, I
Watching your name scroll by on the.
well, and yeah, and we so Wright State has some really weird connection with Tom Hanks, because one of our teachers like taught him when he was really young, and so our like individual like arts college graduation, our speaker was Tom Hanks, and it was a like pre-recorded video that he had made for us, which was really crazy because if you remember, he was one of the first like major celebrities to get the virus.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
do remember that.
so it was really crazy that he was like, it was specifically him, like talking to us. But it was just very bizarre. Like, there's like a picture of me somewhere, like on my Instagram, of me sitting at my kitchen table with like graduation get cap on, just like watching the laptop, like, what the hell's going on? Because it's just a video of Tom Hanks being like, "Hey, this sucks," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." It was
literally,
pre-recorded. He wasn't
this
there on
sucks.
Zoom. He's like, it was pre-recorded. He wasn't there. It was still like, I mean, it was cool for sure. But it was just like a very anticlimactic sort of like, well, now what? Um,
Yeah, definitely.
I Yeah, because I had gone home to Louisville. Oddly enough, like this is so bizarre, but I had 2 days before everything shut down. I had surgery on my ears,
Hmm.
totally minor, completely fine. But I was still like recovering, so I had gone home to recover, and everything kind of came crashing down after that. There was a lot of like rejection. I was hoping to work in an apprenticeship,
Mm.
and I got rejected from that. But obviously, at that point, everyone was getting rejected because
Yeah,
things weren't like
yeah,
happening. So
right.
there was definitely like a lot of downtime during the pandemic. I was certainly thankful for the friends that I had made, and my teacher still tried to help me actually with some activities, because I'm also a writer, and I'm currently adapting a book that I had
Oh,
signed the rights to adapt it. Oh God, it was like 4 or 5 years ago now. Very, very lucky that it was on the author had passed away a number of years ago, and I had found his family on Facebook and just sent him a message and was like, "Hey, I am interested. I'm nobody, but I think this book's amazing, and I think it would translate really well to the stage. And I would love to, like, if you ever see this, I would love to talk with you." And lo and behold, I got a hold of his son, who's like a professor in college, and he was like, "My dad always wanted someone to like work. Like he would have loved to have had someone adapt his work. So I think we're gonna let you do it." And they didn't charge me,
Oh
um,
wow,
and it was really
that's
kind of
nice.
them. And I've been working on this. It's called Beanball. It's about baseball. It's a play about baseball, about a high school star who gets hit in the head and loses his eye.
Oh wow.
And it's a really great book that I think really translates to the stage. But during the pandemic, my teacher um, knew I had it going on, and he was like, "I want to do a Zoom reading of the show, um, and I want to bring in, but I want it to be like a good Zoom reading. Like I want to bring in my people." And he's worked on Broadway before, so he brought in. It's mainly supposed to be like a kids show because there's like a lot of high school age kids in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening was a lot of my personal like colleagues or classmates played the kids, and then actual adults played the adults, and a couple of those adults happened to be like veteran Broadway actors,
Mm.
which was really crazy that they came on to read the show. Um, we had like one little rehearsal over Zoom, and then we had a reading, and we had like some invited guests from a couple professional children's theaters and a couple professional playwrights, and I got to have a lot of feedback and talk with them, and it was a really incredible experience. And I'm still working on that show and trying to get it um, done somewhere for the first time because it's only ever been in readings. But that was
Yeah.
definitely like the biggest artistic thing that happened immediately following um, graduation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's exciting, dude. Congratulations.
thank you.
That's
It
definitely a
was
big thing.
It was, yeah, and I'm still hopeful that one day I would love for my high school. I would love for Manual to do like a reading of it. I think that would be really cool. I would love for that to happen. I'm trying to make that connection. Um, but I didn't officially like re-enter the world, I guess so to speak, until probably like January of 21 because I was just like at home. I was trying to apply for grad school.
Yeah.
I was trying to make ends meet. I didn't really have a job at that point, but I eventually was like, okay, I need to. As things opened up too, I was also very cautious about like um, going out in the world because I was just like, I'm immune compromised. Like it could be if I got the virus, it'd be bad, and it would like, and my
Mm-hmm.
if my family got the virus, it would also be quite bad as well. So I was just trying to play it as safe as possible. Um, I officially I started working at a physical therapist office in January of 21.
Nice.
I worked there for 6 months, um, and it was during that I was still represented by Heyman Talent, which is the talent agency that here in this part of the country. They have offices in Louisville, Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, and Indianapolis, and it's one of the bigger talent agencies in this part of the country. I was still getting opportunities, um, and I got an audition for this movie that was all I knew that it was a Netflix film that was shooting in Cleveland, and I didn't think anything of it because the audition was really bizarre. But it wasn't until uh, the day it was due, I was on my lunch break at home, and I figured out that it was this movie with Adam Driver, directed by Noah Baumbach, and I was like, oh my god, wait, that's what this movie is. I have to audition for this, and I like quickly filmed it in my living room. I had to like pretend to start a lawnmower and do it in reverse. I had to like fall to the ground in slow motion, and just it was just like a list of like random like physical things for me to do.
Slow motion. That's
Yeah,
funny.
it was bizarre. It was the weirdest to this day. It is the weirdest audition I've ever done in my life, and I never heard anything of it going through the summer because it said it was shooting from like June or July until like October, and I was like, that is such a large gap. It's like
Yeah.
when would I be used if I was in it? Because it was
Yeah.
for like background dancer or something, and I just kept getting emails being like, "You're still being considered, et cetera, et cetera." I was like, "Okay." I never had to send anything more, and then it was sometime in, I want to say like May, I found out I was cast in this
Hey.
movie, and I wasn't going to shoot until mid August. So I was like, "Well, this works out perfectly." I It ended up being a film called White Noise, which is on Netflix, and it was truly like, to this day, one of the best like artistic experiences I think I've ever had. I went into it thinking I was a background dancer. I went to my first. It was shot in Cleveland. I went to my first rehearsal, um, and the choreographer was his name was David Newman. He was a choreographer for Hadestown on Broadway, which is a great musical. He was just nominated for like a Tony Award, so I was already like starstruck and like terrified. Um, and we had our first rehearsal in this incredible like grocery store set that they were building from an abandoned Home Depot, and I was having a blast. It was a lot of work, and the next day I had my costume fitting, and one of the he was talking about in the film. The choreographer was talking about how important the grocery store is to this movie for whatever reason, because it's the film talks about death, the meaning of death, as well as like consumerism, and like it's a lot about, it's a very like existential film,
Mm-hmm.
and it comments on a lot of those topics. But the supermarket is like a very important like piece of symbolism to the film. And I was getting my costume fitting, and one of the like production assistants was like, "Do you know what you're doing in the movie?" And I was like, "No, no, I don't know what I'm doing." He goes, "You're the manager of the supermarket," and I was like, "Wait, what?" Uh, what does that mean? Like, is that just like what? And he's like, "There's like a scene." Like, I was like, do I talk?" And he was like, "I do not know." I got my costume fitting, so I was left. So that's about as much as I knew. I went home for a week, and then I had to book an extended stay hotel. Like they weren't covering like my cost to stay there, and
Oh, that's annoying.
yeah, and I got to an extended stay. I bought groceries for the next 2 weeks. I had like a kitchenette in like this hotel type it was like basically a hotel with like a small kitchen, so I
Yeah.
could like not have to buy food out every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all my supplies, and I was ready for the 2 weeks. And my first day of filming, my call time was like 5:30 in the morning, and I got to set. I got in costume, everything. I was with all of the background people, the extras, um, which ended up being a mistake because I got called to set, and I walked onto set, and it's just like this huge. I looked up, the movie had, was it like an $80 million budget? Like, this was an insane, like high level Netflix type set. And
Wow.
so I'm already like terrified, and I'm being led on set, and then here comes the choreographer David, who I'd already worked like talked to before, so it was like a familiar face. And he walks up to me with the script, and he goes, "Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. You do have a line. Here's how it's gonna work." And he was explaining it to me, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, what?" Like millions of thought, like, "Are we about to film this right now? Like, what's good?" Like, I'm terrified. And then all of a sudden, I ask him a question, and then I hear, "No, I got you." And it's Noah Baumbach, who's Academy Award nominated writer and director. He made Marriage Story. He co-wrote Barbie with Greta Gerwig. He comes over, and he like just puts his hand over. He puts his arm around me. He's like, "Here's what's gonna happen," and he just walks me through it. And I'm like, just terrified, because I'm like, this. It all happens so quickly. Um,
Yeah,
and
as it does
yeah,
happen
as it
fast.
does. And then I ended up, but luckily, I ended up sitting on the set doing nothing for basically like 8 hours that first day, knowing that the next day was going to be when we filmed my part. So I got like the night to like kind of, I didn't need to like it was one line, so it wasn't anything like crazy to learn. But it was definitely more of like a mental like, okay, so here's what's about to happen. It's gonna be the scene, and um, I was able to prepare the next day. Um, it was very funny because there's a lot of things with, I mean, with the union striking right now, there was actually a lot of weird things that happened with the union on set because we were all cast as background dancers and performers. But if I guess according to the union, if you go to a rehearsal for the film and you're brought back, you cannot be in the pay grade that you were paid at. You have to be you have to be labeled as professional dancer on set, which does mean that they do have to pay for your hotel, and they do you get like a times five increase on your paycheck. Um,
Wow.
and so, but then it becomes something entirely different. Um, if you have a line and you are wired, meaning they like put the microphone on you and you say the line, from that point on, you are principal cast, which is like you're like on the same level as like any other, pretty much any other like speaking role in the film. So I went from background dancer to professional dancer to principal cast in like one day. So I kept having to sign contracts that kept getting emailed to me by Netflix because it was like your role has changed. This has changed. This has changed. My number on the call sheet kept getting higher. Um, I ended up on the last day on the call sheet on the last day. I think my name was right below Andre 3000's, which I was like, that's crazy. Um,
Yeah, that is cool.
um, and yeah, I kept it was insane, and they ended up I had to can. Luckily, the extended stay was kind enough to let me cancel my second week of staying, all basically because I only had to stay there for like 3 or 4 days because after that they covered my living experience, living cost, and I got to live in a hotel for the remainder of the week and a half. So
Well, that's good, man.
yeah, it was, and we the day I filmed, it was if you watch the film, it's in the grocery store scene. It's a woman goes over to Greta Gerwig is talking with her daughter, and then a woman crashes into a bookcase and falls over, and then I go over and help her, and Greta like watches it, and that's the biggest thing that I did in the film, and
Nice.
that little blurb took I think it was about 3.5 4 hours probably, because we did it like 17 or 18 times.
Oh yeah, I'm
um,
sure. I can't
it
even
was
imagine.
Yeah, and it was like I will say like that that chunk of time, like I look back on that and being like that's something that's just like I still to this day cannot believe is something that happened to me because it was in that moment where I was like I was being directed by like someone who is very high in the industry. Like, and it wasn't just like I kept doing it. It was like Noah would come over to me between takes and like talk to me and be like, "Here's some things I want you to think about. Here's some things I want you to ad lib, or here's some things I want you to do." And he like eventually started yelling things for me to do during the take, like, and it was like I just felt that for that like brief like window of a few hours, I was like, I'm the real, like this is the real deal. I'm in the real thing right now. Like this is what I've worked for is to like be in this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, man.
so it was really exciting, and I was really glad that I wasn't cut from the film. That part is very much in it,
Yeah.
as well as I appear basically every time they're in the grocery store. I'm somewhere in the background, um, working or something, and then of course the I don't want to spoil it, but they're at the end of the film is ends in the grocery store, and it's a very big scene that we all got to do together, and it was very very fun um, to work in that capacity. It was crazy too because you never know who's like around because I ended up not realizing was a lot of the other dancers in the film were like all Broadway people. Like they're not like super well known, not necessarily like household names in the industry per se, but they're all like working act Broadway people. Um, and like that was you never realize like how like oh I'm with them, I'm in this thing with them, and it's like it's very reassuring as a performer to like be in that same like space so to speak.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, dude. And congratulations on being in that film, Eric. That's super impressive and super. I'm sure that was a lot of fun. And, like you said, to be in that moment, like, this is what I've worked for. Those moments are, like, priceless.
No question. Yeah, thank you. It was really exciting, and I had to be very like secretive about it, like signing NDAs and stuff. Like, I would maybe like talk a little bit about it with my friends or like very close friends or family, but like I had to keep very quiet about a lot of it for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Noah did not allow phones on set. Like there was like literally a box that you had to put your phone in if you had it with you. He's very secretive about who can like the monitors, like of who's watching the monitors. Like he puts a big screen behind the monitor so no one could like see it from behind, other than only he could. It would be like him, and then like Adam Driver would like walk over there and just like watch it too. But to be on set with all these people, it was really an insane experience. And the movie ended up coming out. We filmed it in August of 21, and it came out basically December 30th of the next year, basically. So it came out a year later, and it had a very limited theatrical release. But I was lucky enough that the Speed Art Museum here in Louisville was screening it, so I got to go see it in a theater for the first time,
Mm.
which was really awesome.
Yeah, that's great. That's I bet that was, and even greater to see it on a screen like that other people are watching too.
And not knowing like what was kept, right? Like
Yeah,
you can film so like there was something that I did that was not kept in the film that I was like, and like, oh dang it, that was funny. Um, but you have no idea like how, because it's like you film so much, and then like the editing process is its own process to begin with,
oh
where
yeah.
they have to basically remake the movie, so to speak, after they film everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to see what gets kept. But it is on Netflix now. It's very strange. It's very unique. It's funny. It's got some like sort of like heartfelt moments. It's got some like scary moments. It's kind of an all around fun movie to see.
Great. Well, I gotta watch it on Netflix, bro. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
And now, also, you told me about a web series that you're involved with. Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
about that.
yeah. Well, like I mentioned, like when I graduated college, there was a lack of like ending it, right? Like the goodbyes and like being like, this is it, y'all. Like
Yeah.
I might not see. We're all gonna go our different ways. Like I might not see a lot of you like for a long time. And three of my friends ended up staying in the Ohio area and in the Dayton, Ohio area, and they had an apartment for about a year. And they created this sort of company called Yours Truly Creative that did Shakespeare in the Park some in the fall that I ended up going and helping like taking photos for and like helping them set up. And then they did a Christmas special on YouTube, and I had pitched to them. I was like, hey, I have this idea for a web series that we could record, and like I can spearhead it. It's just like it would be like under Yours Truly Creative, and like you all would be in it too, and I would need help writing it because I have the idea, but I haven't like sat down and like finished it all out. And they were in favor. I pitched it to them. They were in favor of it. Um, a group of us wrote the stories over Zoom, and then I would go and write the screenplays. So like we kind of worked. We all did the big picture thing together, but then I did like a lot of the grunt screenplay writing, and then one of the other directors or of the company would like help me edit the scripts. It was an 8 episode web series. Each episode's about 8 to 12 minutes, something like that. All in all, it's probably about an 80 minute, 90 minute. Like if you were to binge it, that's about how long it would be. And it's about it's called Next Best Thing, and it's about this talent agency in a small town that has an opportunity to cast a major motion picture. And it's the competition between two actors. One is like a veteran, like actor in the town, and the other is brand new. And then there's also a competition between someone who works for the film and the person that runs the casting agency. And so there's a lot of conflict, and it's fun. It's lighthearted, but also it's like it's got a lot of heart, and it's very grounded, I think.
Mm.
A lot of my really close friends were in it. We got to work with a lot of new professional actors, which was really exciting. Like we had people like literally. We had a very small, like maybe $500-$600 budget, and we shot it. I actually shot it right before I filmed White Noise. We shot it in the end of July and beginning of August. We stayed in the I stayed in the apartment with them for 2 weeks. So I slept on a couch for 2 weeks. Um, and there were like this 3-person apartment had about 5, 6, 7 people staying in it. Um, and we filmed at a lot of local businesses. We had this like studio that we had access to that was like this second floor of this like building that parts of it had been gutted out to create a theater space, and we used that. Um, but we somehow filmed everything that we needed to. We filmed 96 pages in 2 weeks, which is insane. And it was a lot. Basically, like the goal was like, were we trying to make like this incredible like masterpiece? It's like, no, we were trying to just do something together before we all went our separate ways, and we wanted just an opportunity for us to have fun and create something together, and that's what we did. And it's fun. It's a really great story, and like honestly, everyone worked so hard on it, and it was so much fun. And it's on YouTube. Yours truly creative. It's called Next Best Thing. Again, there's 8 episodes of it, but it was very fun to work on.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good time. I think, and I checked some of that out like a year or so ago,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
need to catch back up on it though.
Yeah, it released earlier last year. We released basically once a week for a while, and it formally stopped coming out, I think, sometime early summer last year. Uh,
Mm.
so it's you can binge it. It's about like 80-90 minutes maybe if you were to binge it, and it was super super awesome. And there's also almost all of the music is original too, whether it was, and some of it was written for the show, but a lot of it were all our friends that were in bands or had their own albums. They let us use their music. So
Oh, there you go. That's
we
cool.
got to have a lot of original music for it. In fact, YPass alum Josh, blanking on his last name. Um,
Oh, Josh Brown. What
yeah,
is
I
his
think it's
name?
Brown.
Brown. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He was design tech at
yeah, yeah,
YPass. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's great musician.
yeah. Me and
Um,
him went to college together.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, his song his song is the theme song for the show, basically a cut of his song, and then
nice.
he composed he actually composed a small like instrumental bit that was used in one of the episodes, and then he helped write this song with this other band called Philistine Pill that is at the closing of the show. I want to make sure I get that band name right. Um, yeah, Philistine Pill. My Worst Enemy is the
Philistine
song that.
Pill.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so that he helped. I know. I think he helped. He's not. He helped them write or work on that song, and that band was gracious enough to also let us use their song. But there's like quite a few different original music from different artists in that as well. We tried to make it as much of our own as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. That's exciting. A lot of cool
Yeah.
stuff out of college. Sounds like you're staying busy.
Yeah, I started teaching. I after basically I started teaching in the fall of 21. A friend of mine asked me if I ever wanted to be a voice teacher, and I was like, I have no idea how I would do that, but okay. Um, and I started out as a voice teacher at one studio, an acting teacher at another, and I was trying to just get as many hours as I could. I was able to help direct shows here and there, and I started out with just 2 voice students, and I was able to build up such a reputation and build up such a class size that I had to actually I had to leave one of the studios to make my life a little bit more cohesive,
Yep.
and I'm now at about 20 voice students, and I teach a musical theater class
Wow,
with my
dude.
studio, and it's slowly building up, and we're slowly getting to a point where we might be able to like start maybe doing shows someday down the road. And I perform locally as much as I can. Um, it's hard getting into the professional theater scene here in town. There's a lot of like connections that have to be made, but we're getting there. Um, I'm actually in a show right now. We just finished our first weekend. It's called Bonnie and Clyde, and with Mind's Eye Theater Company. There, I'm sure if you check out my Instagram, there's a link for tickets. We have 5 more shows.
Mm,
Thursday, Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Um,
nice.
and it's a great musical. It's at the Kentucky Center, or Kentucky Performing Arts now is what it's called. In the upstairs, their upstairs black box theater, the Mex Theater. So, if you want to check me out there, if you're in Louisville, please come see us. It's a great show. But yeah, I'm teaching, performing, and trying to survive as much as I can.
Dude, that's the goal. You're doing it. You're making it
Yeah.
happen. That's all you can ask for. Congrats on all that, Eric. Seriously, that's dope.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Totally, man. Last thing, if you want, we did you want to just talk for a minute about GSA? Because I know that you did that in the summer when you were in college, but then you just did it this past summer, right?
Yeah, I did. Governor School for the Arts summer program here in Kentucky. Kevin and I we went the same year in 2015. As students, I ended up continuing to work there. I started working there in 2018 in the summers in college. Instead of doing like summer stock theater, I would go to GSA. Um, and I was working as an RA, a residential advisor, basically meaning I was like I would have like a group of students that I'd be responsible for to look out for, as well as like be like a camp counselor, so to speak.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I fell in love with the job. It was really good for the heart to be around all those incredibly talented kids and be around such a wonderful artistic environment. Like you create this bubble of just artists and art, and it's just really wonderful. It's like a glimpse of like what the world could be. It's very open and free, and it's just like you get to see these kids transform over 3 weeks, and I just was like I couldn't get enough of it. And I also wanted to give back because it affected me so much as a student. So I continued to work there. I did the virtual program in 2020, which was really really exciting to like be on that journey. Um, and then I found myself in 2022. Um, I applied for a supervisor role for the RAs, the co-residential supervisor, who were like the two people that are like on the leadership team and in charge of the residential life side and like oversee all the RAs, and were like a higher up on the ladder, so to speak. And I ended up
Nice.
doing that job in 22 for 1 session because GSA switched to 2 sessions
Mm,
last year, and I worked both, and I was an RA for the second session just because there were multiple people that could be CRS. Um, and this past summer, I actually was CRS one more time, and this was it was my seventh GSA as a staff member, and it was also my last as a Res Life staff member. I wanted to do one more as a CRS because it's just like you learn a lot the first time you do it, and like it was one of those things where it's like I got one more in me. I wanna do it one more time with like the knowledge that I have
yeah,
to
for
like
sure.
to be more prepared now that I'm more prepared for what the job will entail.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, it's a super rewarding job, and I really really enjoyed it. And it was very weird to be for GSA to be going on and for me to not be there. Um, but I was certainly like so grateful to them for the opportunities that they gave me every summer, and I don't want it to be my last GSA ever. It's definitely my last one for Res Life, but I would love to one day go back as a faculty member potentially. So
Dude,
that's
yeah.
as time progresses. Hopefully, sometime. Hopefully, I'll try to throw my hat in that ring and see what happens.
That's great, bro. That's great. Yeah, I just wanted to plug that real quick because shout out to
Yeah, of
GSA.
course.
Shout out
Yeah,
to GSA.
applications open. If anyone here knows any high school artists, the applications opened like yesterday. As a teacher, my students apply and try to get them in. It's a life changing experience, and it's free. There's an
That's right.
application
I
fee.
forgot about that, but it is
Yeah,
free. Yeah.
it is free. You live on a college campus for 3 weeks, all meals paid for. Um, you and you get a performance at the end of it, and it gives you a bunch of opportunities for scholarships. It's an incredible, incredible program.
Yeah.
There's like a small application fee, and I think that's the only money you'd have to pay in term to GSA for it. So it's a super rewarding program, and if you're at all interested, you can check them out.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I remember the performance days at GSA. That was what a day. What
So
a
much fun.
what a time. What a time. Well, Erik, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. You know, everything that you got going on. It sounds like you're doing it, making it work, and I'm proud of you, man. And I'm congratulations on your, your current work and your current shows that you're in and you're doing. And just keep it up, man.
Thank you so much, man, and thank you for having me. And again, like, also, it's so awesome to see you doing the work too, and like you are really making it happen also, and it's just really fun to see like everyone succeed and doing what they love, and like
Yeah,
getting to be in the art that they love. It's really awesome to see.
absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I'm here
Hmm.
shining light on the creatives and their work, man. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, with that, Erik, you have a great day. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, man. If you ever want to check me out, I'm at Erik Moth on all social medias. If you're curious, I teach at Louisville Academy Fine Arts. That's lou.afa on social media as well. We're great off Brownsboro Road, great arts place. And then you can see me for any of the theater stuff that I have going on, and feel free to hit me up anytime.
And it's Erik, Erik, right?
That's correct. Erik.
And it's
That is,
one word, just Erik Moth.
yep, Erik
Yeah.
Moth. One word.
So go hit that follow button, ladies and gentlemen.
Hmm.
All right, man. Will you be safe? Have a great rest of your day and week.
Thanks, man. You too.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Alrighty.
Peace.
Peace.
Well, it's another great episode with Erik Moth. Thankful for everything that he had to share and say. He's got a lot going on for him. He's a very talented guy. So thank you to everybody for tuning in to episode 39. I cannot believe it. We are approaching 40 episodes, which is phenomenal. And it's been over the course of about 3 years. I've had some stopping points. I know I was gone for a year because I was so busy. But again, we're back and we're continuing to film more episodes. So episode 40 is on the way. Thank you all. Peace.